In this tutorial, we're going to set up a template that will allow my staff in a certain position to create their own shifts. First things first, we're going to go over to the left-hand side of our screen underneath Schedule, and you're going to hover over Advanced Configuration and choose Add Shift Utility as the first option here. So bring you to this page, and it's important to note that whatever position you want to add this for, you want to make sure it's loaded in this top left corner. So whatever position you have loaded here, this is what you're going to be seeing and being able to add for this specific template. Now, if you see it says no data available, that means that a create shift template has not been set up yet. And if employees wanted to create shifts for this specific position, they would be unable to at this time. So let's add a template. Let's choose the green button here, top right. It says add new template. And there's gonna be some choices that you're gonna have to make here while setting this up on what you want to allow your staff to do. First is if it's active right now, go ahead and check this box. That means that it'll go ahead and be active as soon as we publish this and as soon as we save this. The next question you have to answer is, does this require manager approval? And what that means is when they create their own shift within their own SubitUp account, will this require a manager to approve that in the pending request section before it's actually live and on the calendar? If you do not have this, it will not let them go over their max hours, but as long as they don't violate any of the other rules that you've set, it will let them automatically just create that shift on their own. Next is a shift name. So whenever they create a shift, what are they going to, what do you want this to be named? So I'm going to call this private swim lesson. Okay. And then for my note here, this is going to be any note that I want to give to the staff. So maybe my note's going to say, add in the family's name when creating a shift. Just as a reminder. Next is a start date and the end date. This is when are they going to be allowed to start creating shifts? What's the first day of that? So let's say my program here starts on June 1st, and it'll go all the way until August 31st. Lastly, you'll have to choose which days of the week that staff are allowed to create their own shifts, as well as the times that they're allowed to create their own shifts. So if this is not weekends, let's say it's just Monday through Friday, and let's say our start time here is 8 a.m. for Mondays, and they can book all the way up until 8 p.m. And you'd be able to go through and make these changes on each of these. For the rest of these days, we'll just leave them midnight to 11:59, which means they can really create a shift at any time. The next column is max staff. So what this actually means is maximum amount of shifts that can be made in a given day. So for instance, if one employee made 3 different shifts, that would count as 3 here. So let's say my max for each of these is 20 for each day. I can have 20 shifts on each day. We'll change that for each one. And then what is the amount of time that staff are allowed to create a shift for? You can put the minimum amount of hours and the maximum amount of hours. And any shift that they create will have to fall into that range. So the default here is 2 is the minimum and 8 for the max. I'm just going to leave that as is. But if you wanted to change this to anything else, you could. So we'll hit save. And at this point now, this has been created. So my staff, as my equipment staff, will be able to go in now starting June 1st and create their own shifts in the system. So let's go ahead and log in as an employee and see what this looks like. Okay. Now we're logged in as an employee. We're going to go ahead and hit the create shift button. And then we'll be able to choose a position. And these are all the positions that have the add shift utility already set up. We're doing this for the equipment staff, so we'll choose that. And from here, we're going to go over to June 1st, which is the first day that I'm allowed to actually create my own shift. And I'll be able to see any other shifts that I'm working that maybe across different positions will also show up here. And anything that's grayed out, this means I'm not allowed to create a shift at this time. Remember, Saturdays, we're not allowed to, right? So it won't even let me create this shift. It starts June 1st, anything before that, it won't let me create. But on June 1st, let's say I go ahead and create this for 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's called Private Swim Lesson. We'll hit the save button here. And then, the shift note's actually already telling me. Make sure you add in the family's name that you're working with when you're creating a shift. So I'll go ahead and say it's the Smith family. And if I wanted to add any additional notes, I could. Maybe may start 30 minutes early. And I'll hit the save button. Once this is created, since I have moderation on, this shift just went over and is going to require my manager's approval before it actually shows up on my calendar at this point. If I didn't have manager approval on, this would now be completely created and good to go. If I try to create a shift that's outside of these bounds, for instance, if I try to only do a 1 hour long shift, it's going to let me know that there's an issue, and it'll tell you exactly what it is. This shift is too short. It has to be between 2 and 8 hours. Lastly, they'll be able to see all the rules up here in the top right, those things that we just created. We're going to be able to see in there what's for each day of the week, what's the minimum amount of hours for a shift, maximum amount of hours, and how many staff and how many are left. So we created that one on Wednesday, so we do have only 19 available on Wednesday. That is how to set up a template to let your staff create their own shifts, as well as how they can actually create their own shifts. If you have any questions at all, reach out to our support team. You can email us at support@subbitup.com or give us a call at 617-401-8733. Our office hours are Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks so much.